Mr. Speaker, thanks for waiting. Thanks for your patience. Great to have you with us, sir.
Thank you, John. It's great to be on the show, and it was interesting hearing all the dialogue. I appreciated that.
Now, Mr. Speaker, we have a lot to talk about. Let's get to this whole thing, Mr. Speaker. Let's start with these statues coming down, these monuments coming down. How do you stand on this issue, sir, and why?
Well, I really appreciate Ed Gillespie's point, and that is the statues basically should stay for a variety of reasons. You know, the most important thing to remember is I was talking yesterday with a fellow named Bud Robertson. Bud's a very famous Civil War historian. He's written a lot of books. Stonewall Jackson, he's the authority on Stonewall Jackson, I think, in the country. And we were talking about the importance of history and how important history is to our culture. And basically what these people, the Ralph Northams of the world, are asking us to do is get rid of our history because some people don't like it, and that's just exactly wrong. There's so many reasons for not taking these statues down, whether it's the monetary issue that the fellow from Portsmouth was talking about, or whether it's the historical interest that my friend Bud Robertson was talking about. You know, Donald Trump got in trouble for talking about the slippery slope. But who's next? Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, our founding fathers who owned slaves. Bud Robertson has a good quote. He says, "What the problem people have today is they're looking at scenes from looking at what happened 150 years ago through today's lenses. The country's changed, the society's changed, the culture's changed, and we can't expect people to be held to the accountability that we have today." I would say the one thing that probably one of the bigger disappointments in this whole mess is the way that people on the left have just moved even further to the left. Ralph Northam, he's really been a disappointment to me. I've known Ralph since he came to the Senate. He's a nice guy, and I think he's saying things that he doesn't believe in his heart. But just a week ago, several days before the weekend in Charlottesville, he was saying that the statues should stay, and he was saying they should have context about why they're there. But he was adamant that they should stay. And then after Charlottesville, he turned 180 degrees, and he moved even further to the left, and he said all the statues should come down. And I guess that includes the one at VMI where he went to school for Stonewall Jackson. It would include the Lee Monument on Monument Avenue, which is owned by the state. The beautiful statues on Capitol grounds and within the Capitol. He says they all should come down, and I just don't understand that. You know, Richmond Times-Dispatch columnist Jeff Shapiro wrote Sunday about Lieutenant Governor's newfound position, and he said, this is a quote, "Northam is playing to the Democrat base, but is he going too far with an issue that is more symbolic than substantive?" He said, so much for the debate on health care, jobs, and education. That's what Ed Gillespie's talking about. Those are the issues that matter to the people of Virginia. And I got to tell you, John, when you're a Democrat and you've lost Jeff Shapiro, you know you're in trouble. Again, I think Ed's position is, as you would like to say, spot on. It's well thought out. It strikes the right balance, it seems to me, between leaving the statues up but also adding historical context to tell the whole story. I would encourage your listeners to go online, edforvirginia.com, and look up a thoughtful piece that he wrote last week called Thoughts on Virginia's Historical Monuments. It's very well done. It states the issue well.
It was definitely a very cogent and sober piece that he had written, and it was non-hysterical, where Ralph Northam did the opposite. And look, a week ago, I had Northam as a pretty significant favorite to win this race. I'm telling you, Mr. Speaker, Ed Gillespie is going to win in November, and he's going to win on this issue because people just are sick and tired of elites telling him how to think, what to do. And where does this stop? You mentioned VMI. I do VMI football. I'm a huge VMI fan. I do their pre- and post-game football show. By the way, they open Saturday, September 3rd, so everybody knows, in Colorado Springs against the Air Force Academy. And no, we're not going to get blown out, and we are going to be in the game in the middle of the third quarter, just so everybody knows. But you go to VMI, it's a beautiful campus. You got this beautiful statue of Stonewall Jackson. It's not there because of Confederacy or war or the Civil War. He was a great general, and that's a military college. And do you take that statue down? Look at what's just happened at ESPN, where an Asian football broadcaster, Mr. Speaker, whose name is Robert Lee, which is an Asian name, Lee is an Asian name, gets kicked out of doing a UVA game. I mean, is that the craziest thing you've ever heard?
Yeah, it really is, but it shows how far the left has gone. It really does.
So both of us now think Gillespie's going to win. And I said earlier, I think the grand irony of all politics is he almost got defeated for the nomination based on statues. Now he's going to win the governorship based on statues. That's just my narrative. Let's get to your budget surplus in Virginia. Where do we stand on it now? And is that kind of one of your legacies as you're leaving for retirement?
No, it's certainly not my legacy, John. I appreciate that. But we have our entire caucus is focused on conservative budgeting, and that's what has generated this surplus as much as anything else is the conservative budget that the House caucus helped put together this past year. And I think you're going to see more of that. And I think when the surplus was announced, Chris Jones, chairman of the Appropriations Committee, Kirk Cox, Majority Leader and Speaker Designee, all came out immediately saying, we've got to take that surplus and put it aside in a rainy day fund, if you will. It's a new fund that they've created for situations like this. It's that consistent, conservative budgeting, handling of other people's money that has enabled us to keep our AAA bond rating from all three of the rating agencies longer than any state in the country. I think the governor will make his proposals, as he said in a letter to us, I guess a week or two ago, where he was imploring that we expand Medicaid, and he's going to put that in the budget that he presents to us. That's not going to happen, and the budget that comes forth is going to be a work of both the House and the Senate, but it's going to be a legislative body that a new governor hopefully will sign. That's another good thing about Ed Gillespie. We've had an awful lot of good legislation coming through the last couple of years that Governor McAuliffe takes great pride in vetoing it. I find it ironic that the governor's kind of you talk about legacy, the thing he's most proud of, I think, is that he's had more vetoes than any other governor in Virginia, and that tells me that he's not working together with us. And I'm looking forward to Virginia having a legislature that can work with a governor.
Now, we got a new Ed Gillespie TV ad that just came out. I'm going to play the audio of it. Can we do that? Because we think he's going to win over the statues issues, and because that Ralph Northam, I don't know where Northam is going with this. All he had to do to win was go back to the Eastern Shore and go fishing, and he wins. But he couldn't do that. And
before
I'm still convinced.
Can I just say one other thing about why I think Ed's going to win? He's the only guy that's talking about issues. He's run a positive campaign that's talking about where he wants to take Virginia. He's laying out detailed policy positions that show that he's got a deep knowledge on and a willingness to tackle these tough problems. He's focused on job creation, economic growth, education reform, effective governance. All you hear from the Democrats is $15 an hour minimum wage, free community college, getting rid of the right to work law. You hear nothing positive coming from them that's doable. And Ed's talking about positive, doable things. He's talking about a tax cut. My goodness, we haven't had a tax cut in generations in Virginia, and he would take care of that. It's exciting to see all that he's doing, and I agree with you. I think he's really getting the momentum, and he's moving forward. And this statue thing is just indicative of the difference between the two candidates.
It's crazy. That's what it is. It's crazy. Okay, let's get to his new TV ad.
My grandfather worked in a corporate boardroom, but he never sat at a table like this. He polished it. He was a janitor. I inherited his work ethic from my parents, who ran a small grocery store. They never went to college, but insisted I do. I got a degree, started 3 small businesses, and advised the President of the United States. Where we start out in life shouldn't determine where we end up. I'm running for governor so all Virginians can realize the American dream.
I love the way it starts where he said, my grandfather was at a boardroom table, but he didn't sit there, he polished it. You know, going back to kind of your working class roots, and I think his family owned a store, grocery store. And I didn't think he really ever got to those themes during the nomination contest, but I think what he's trying to do now is show people that, he's just a regular guy that I think he parked cars for a while at the Capitol, right?
Yep. And I think, a lot of us have those heritages, and I think that's what really is the opportunity that makes our state and our country different. You can come from anywhere. You can go be in one caste and go to another caste and another caste. And we're one of the few places on earth where that can happen, where the opportunities are what they are. And I think that's what we need to celebrate in Virginia is the opportunity, and how do we get everybody, moving ahead. So whoever gets that theme down the best, I think takes this one to the big house. So, but I love to celebrate success, and I think we need to be talking about success, talking about opportunity, talking about how we build this state and this country up. And so those are themes I think are common and should be common to any political contest, and whoever gets that right, gets it the best, wins. My father grew up without a father. My grandmother was a nurse. He lived in a home with no heat, and she made him learn to play the piano, and she made him go to college. And he'll tell you, he's not living dead, but if he was living today, he would tell you those two things. It changed his life and allowed him to go on that trajectory to own a business and to grow it and become from someone who really had nothing and grew up with no dad. His mother was a nurse, to go to college, to play football there, to come out, go in the Marine Corps, end up in Richmond and have, kind of a fairy tale existence. And I think that's what happens in Virginia when we do the right things. That's what happens in the country when we do the right things. So, my mission or our mission should be, how do we make sure that we put forth the right political policy that affords that opportunity to people, and how do we paint that picture? Because the statistic that I like is you earn within $5,000 of your closest 5 friends. And so how do we get exposure to, how do we get everybody paired up with a billionaire?
I'm going to get better friends than I've got.
It's so interesting, though. It's because you copy who you know. And so how do we present ideas that can lead to those kind of successes? I think that's what we need. That's what we need to talk about.
But you're saying, if I want to make more money, just go to Capitol Hill and hang around the politicians and the.
If you want to make more money,
and then I'll get rich by not producing anything like they do. Let's get back to Bill Howell. I'm sorry. You made me laugh. So, Mr. Speaker, the Democrats, they're running like people out of the wazoo, right? So they think they're going to win like 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 seats. They got candidates all over the place. They're raising a lot of money for the House delegates races. I see maybe 4 seats they can pick up. I think they're going to end up with maybe 3. How do you see it?
Well, I'm more optimistic than you, John, because I'm closer to our candidates. But we've got a great slate of candidates all across the Commonwealth. Incumbents running for re-election, challengers against Democrat incumbents, and open seat cases. And I just see a lot of opportunity for our slate. Our people are, again, just like Ed Gillespie, they're talking about the issues that are concern to the citizens of Virginia. We're citizen legislators. We're not just delegates in Richmond. We're neighbors and small business owners. We know the communities that we represent. Our members get out and they work 52 weeks a year, year after year, not just starting in September of an election year. Every one of our incumbents and our challengers as well has been working the community, knocking on doors, getting to know people, and talking about the issues that they're concerned about. And because of that, I think we got a good chance, John, of picking up seats. And you remember, you heard it here first.
I don't know how you're going to pick up any seat. Give me a seat that the Democrats hold right now that you think you guys can win.
I'll give you 2. Heather Cadasco down your way, down in Newport News. She's a dynamite candidate. She ran against Mullen for Monty Mason's open seat when he went over to the Senate. and the election was on the general election day, the presidential election day, and she lost by about 7 points, but tremendous turnout that's probably not going to come out again this year. No one's going to outwork Heather. Let me tell you that you probably know this story. She had a campaign worker in her office early summer, late spring, who had to have a kidney transplant, and Heather donated her kidney, to this campaign worker. 2 weeks later, she was out going door to door, and this woman who is the donee who got the kidney will go door to door with her, and they've got a very compelling story to tell. But she's a hard worker. She's going to be well funded. I think she can win. We've got a fellow up in Loudoun County running against John Bell, Subha Kola. He's an Indian. He's got a tremendous opportunity. There's a strong Indian population in his district. I think that could well be a surprise. So I can easily see picking up 2 seats. We've got other good challengers around, and we've got good people running in the open seats. Mike, the fellow that's running in my seat, is going to win. He's a good candidate and brings a lot to the table. And I can go across the Commonwealth and point him out like that. So I think the Democrats were excited initially, but I think that excitement, I see it dampening somewhat. There is a lot of outside money coming in.
Tell us about the outside money they're getting. Tell us what's up with that.
Well, I think probably most people have seen the articles in the paper about Planned Parenthood committing millions of dollars in the gubernatorial race. There's a fellow named Tom Steyer. You know Tom Steyer. He's an incredibly wealthy guy on the left coast that now is, I guess, feeling guilty about having made a lot of money. He's trying to give it away to liberal candidates. He said just the other day that he's going to put $2 million in the Virginia governor's race. There's a lot of outside money coming in from the Soroses, from the Steyers, from the Planned Parenthoods of the world. But this money doesn't always make the difference in it. What makes the difference, particularly in House of Delegates races, is that door-to-door contact that our people make year after year, not just during election cycles. And our guys have been doing that, and I think that because of that, we're going to win, even though they're pouring tons of money in from outside sources.
Well, I tell you what, Bill Howell predicting that Ed Gillespie is going to win. I'm with him on that. Also predicting that the Republicans will not lose any seats and may gain one in this upcoming election. I don't see that happening. I think they're going to lose at least 3. That would be my prediction right now. But look, we'll see how it plays out. Heather and Subha, I know them both are good candidates. When I did my show from the Iowa caucuses for a week last, I guess, winter of 16, I'm kind of forgetting when that was, Heather did my show with me. She was a Cruz supporter, so I had to deal with that for a week. So she kind of drove me bananas, but she is a hard worker. And then Subha, I believe, was with us in Cleveland. I think he was a national delegate.
Yes, he was there.
And I hope he wins, even though Subha voted against me and voted for Cuccinelli for delegation chairman of that delegation. Tell him that's okay. I still love him. And even though he voted for Ken Cuccinelli, my arch enemy in that presidential campaign, but he's a good guy. So we're not going to hold that against him, Bill, because I got a big heart.
Yeah, you do.
Right?
Yeah, you do.
Okay, man. All right. Speaker Bill Howell, always a pleasure to have you on, sir. Thank you for your great insight, as always, and for your patience today. And you, Joyce, with us, who owns James River Air Conditioning and a Republican, he says you're going to be missed.
Well, I appreciate
Absolutely.
that. But I'm still around. You need me. Thanks.